So let's get into our own bodies, which that always is to me the interesting lesson of yoga is to connect with others, to connect to self. You want to help others, help self. And I will start, as we usually do, with Sufi grind. If you prefer to start in a still meditation, to lie down, to take a yin pose, you are absolutely welcome to do that. But even in the meditative shapes, maybe connecting to a more conscious breath. Those of you who are starting a movement with me will inhale to lengthen your spine. Exhale, lean forward just a little and start circling the spine, drawing tiny circles on the floor with your tailbone. So the first circles, you'll keep the spine relatively straight so you can feel the movement starts down on the floor. A small, slow, simple movement. And so you can give equal attention to your breath, inviting the breath down to the floor, down to the deeper parts of your physical body. Gradually slowing and growing the breath. So you're mixing the movement of breathing and that pulsation in the abdomen as the belly softens, starts to release its tension. And mix it in with the sensation of stirring in the pelvic bowl. And you may have organically spiraled out to the edges of the pelvis, scooping along the rim. And above that, you may feel the rest of the spine wanting to move out a little bit more. So now the spine's not staying so spoon stick straight. But the rib cage creates its own circles above the pelvis. And the breath now really fills up, nourishes the heart space, the literal lung space. And if you feel other parts of your body are craving some movement, some breath, some opening up, and this movement may become altogether free form, like a dance, or may follow your feeling intuition into some stretches. Well, then go ahead, continue to tap into your inner teacher. If you're still drawing circles in one direction, next time you come to center or come forward, pause. Re-lengthen the spine with a fresh, full breath in. And exhale, reverse the circles. About a dozen more breaths. With these last 3 or 4 breaths, gradually wind your way back to the still place, either sitting upright or you might choose to lie down now. And being relatively still, feel the internal movement you stirred up. On the physical level, you might feel vibrations or even impulses to move your outer body. And not necessarily resisting those impulses, but accepting them, not necessarily responding to them either. Allow them to carve out space inside. And you might also feel the movement in your pranamaya kosha, your energetic body, tingling or temperature shifting, or however that turns up for you. It might show up as emotion. Emote, moving out. And if there's any part in your physical being that could use a little extra vibration, attention, healing today, let's all take our hands, rub them together. If you're lying down and this is inconvenient, you don't have to use your hands. If you are using hands, once they're warm and tingly, you can rest them on your healing area or simply press them together at your heart. We'll take 3 rounds of Om or Brahmari. Brahmari is a pranayama, the bee buzz breath. The part of the Om, or you can make Z sound if you prefer, like a bee. Or sing out in the full Om and just linger on the physical vibration of your lips together voice. 3 times. Breathe in. We'll lie down, but before we lie down, if you have a yoga blanket or a big beach towel, we'll make a yoga roll. We'll do some breathing exercises and some movements lying on our back, or holding the roll between our legs could be a good tool just to keep the pelvic bones stable. So this is optional. You could use a soft yoga block. If you're using the classic Mexican blanket that you find in most yoga studios, fold it so it's folded in 4s, so it's about half the size of the length of your yoga mat, or probably exactly the length, half the length of your yoga mat. And then from the longer end of the rectangle, fold it in half. And then from its short end, fold it up tight so that when you hold this between your thighs against your pelvis, it'll keep your legs hips width apart. So you may need to adjust the size of your roll once you feel what that is. I'm also going to put a folded blanket underneath my head to lift my head up a little bit so my spine can settle onto the mat in its natural shape. For most of our, not most of our, but a lot of our Western bodies, our heads are looking forward a lot. There's a little distortion of spine. So not to reinforce that, but to support my natural shape, I'll put the blanket there. And if your roll is too thick, you might need to unfold a little bit so you don't feel like you're tensing to hold the roll in place. There's enough feedback from the roll to keep the inner leg line turned on. But this is another place we can hold tension and gripping. So that it should also kind of feel like your legs can fall into the roll and relax there. So there's a little bit of the sensation of the knees together, but without that much internal rotation. If the roll you find does not work for your body, that's fine. Take it away. We're just breathing. So first few breaths, let's find our transverse abdominis. So if you like to use your hands, you can rest them kind of the rib area, just above the waist or around the waist. And as you breathe in, feel the rib cage expand out in all directions, front, sides, and the back ribs onto the mat. And as you breathe out, the ribs kind of squeeze back to center like a bellows pressing the exhale out. A couple breaths like that. Inhale to open the bellows. Exhale to draw into center. Ujjayi breath, a useful tool, but natural breath can be fine, nostril breathing. If you are feeling some rib cages don't actually expand and contract anymore, that's all right. You'll just feel the pressure build into the ribs and the softening on the exhale. But you guys whose rib cages are expanding and contracting palpably, get your focus into the back ribs expanding onto the yoga mat. And they won't lift off the yoga mat as you breathe out. But with each inhale, see if we can expand them a little bit more. Shift your hands down to your hips, your low abdomen region. We'll keep focusing on those back bottom ribs, inhaling to expand them, and relax your low belly into your hands. Exhale, massage the low abdominals in. Inhale, spread back bottom ribs onto mat, relax low belly. Exhale, low belly draws in without tightening, just pull it in. 2 more breaths, just like that. And true, you might not feel the back bottom ribs move at all, but there might be the sense of the breath soaking into the tissues of the low back as you infiltrate a less accessible part of the lungs. And we'll keep that breath going and add a little pelvic tilt. Inflate your back bottom ribs as you raise the top rim of your sacrum off the mat. That would be the top edge of the pelvic bowl back there. Exhale, hug low abdominals in and press top rim sacrum into the mat, flattening your low back. Inhale into back bottom ribs as you lift top rim of sacrum up. Exhale, top rim sacrum down. Real subtle movement, but luscious breath as you keep going. Focus on breathing into back bottom ribs just so that part of your rib cage doesn't want to arch up. I mean, it wants to arch up, but we'll just breathe it back down and let the pelvis start to decouple its movement from the spine, from the torso. Creating a greater sense of freedom. consciously inhabiting more of your physical body. Now, maybe stay with this real subtle rock as you feel that internal freedom, that spaciousness between the bones, the lubrication of the tissues. Or some of you will add a little bit more movement. Next time you exhale, top rim sacrum into the earth, pause. Activate your feet, lift and spread your toes, but keep the balls of the feet on the mat. And then inhale to press your feet down to lift the hips off the mat. And then exhale, plant the sacrum down. So the sacrum, it's that bumpy bone right in the middle of the back of your pelvis. It might want more padding. We're going slow. You have time to adjust your setting. Inhale to press up. Exhale, settle down. Here's where I like the roll because one hip tends to move a little differently than the other. And here they just work together. Tiny movements on your breath. All right, some of you will keep going with the tiny movements. Some of you, next time you inhale up, you will stay. Exhale, imagine sending the roll forward with your lengthening inner thighs. And tilt your sacrum, the bottom tip, tailbone area towards the roll, lengthening your low back. Keep the belly in, breathe up into the heart space now. If you want to raise arms up overhead or any other arm position, go for it. 3 more breaths. And exhale, slowly come down. If your hips continually got higher and higher, you might have to come down piecemeal. That's great. Follow what you feel. Not pushing into, not resisting. And take the roll away if it's still there. If resting butterfly, a Supta Baddha Konasana, is appropriate for your body, then maybe you open your knees into a butterfly shape. Maybe you stretch arms overhead as you breathe back bottom ribs towards earth. Alternatively, you can just rest the knees against each other. Now let them collapse into a full internal rotation, separating your feet wider, or swoosh it out. Butterflies, if you can reach your hands down to your thighs, maybe use your hands to help your legs back up. Otherwise, just pick one knee up at a time and feel how that shifts what you feel in sacrum, pelvis on mat. We'll come right into figure 4, flexing right ankle over left knee. Any expression that gets your breath down into the right hip and still into the sacrum pelvic bowl. And change sides. And we'll stay on our backs for the next few exercises. So if you feel like you need to support your shape, like lie a blanket on your mat so it's softer, your bones are padded, or prop up your head, or even that neutral spine on the mat, putting a full blanket underneath the shoulders and head, and then maybe an extra blanket under head, ramping the upper torso up, can help the low back settle. And once you're settled, we'll do some leg slides. Feet on the floor, hips width apart. We'll have hands on the hips. And then hands can be in any position, so we'll respect your shoulders. Inhale into back bottom ribs as you slide your right heel forward, straightening right leg out on the mat. Pretend you're on a slippery surface and your heel can actually slide. I know our yoga mats probably ideally aren't slippery. Relax low belly at the bottom. Relax your hip. And then exhale, hug low belly in to pull the right heel back to the floor by your sitting bone. And take a moment in center to feel both hips settle. Inhale into the back bottom ribs as you glide left heel forward. Relax low abdominals. Exhale, hug low abdominal in to pull the left heel in. Just trying to wake up those low belly muscles to pull the knee in, the leg in, rather than just using our hip flexors on our legs. Again, inhale into back bottom ribs, right heel forward. Relax abdomen. Exhale, hug low belly in, center. Other side, breathing into back bottom ribs because this movement can also cause the low back to arch off the mat. You might feel that urge. We're just not resisting, but gradually not allowing. Exhale, hug it in. All right, this time breathe into back bottom ribs, slide right heel forward. And then exhale, stay, just let it settle. Inhale, back bottom ribs onto mat, left heel forward. Like a little shavasana, walk your feet maybe over to the edges of your mat. We'll do some snow angel shapes. If it feels right to you to keep the legs straight, this is what you'll do. If you want to bend the knees again, be my guest. Inhale the back of the right hand onto the earth and start to slide it up the floor to shoulder height. Some of you won't go all the way to shoulder height or no higher than shoulders. Some of you will keep going up, turning your thumb down to the floor. And to keep the back bottom ribs on the floor, you may need to lift the right arm off the floor, maybe a lot. That's fine. Exhale, come down the way you came up. Inhale, back of left hand onto the floor and glide it up as high as your shoulder wants, maybe continuing to externally rotate by turning your thumb down. And then exhale, come down that way. Now, if both shoulders felt healthy, fairly balanced, now both arms. Otherwise, stay with your right arm. Inhale, backs of hand on floor. Snow angel up. Exhale down. Up to 3 more snow angels. Both arms or one arm. Or you can just do one more extra slow. I'm giving a little extra attention to my more compromised shoulder. So when working with injury, I don't recommend either pushing into injury, mind over matter, nor avoiding it, but learning how to work with it in a way that does not create pain. So this is a really safe space to do that. Now let's move into banana. Let's do a little stretch before we move on. You might want really tiny steps as you walk your right foot over to your left foot, down on the left corner of mat. Some of you would like to hook your ankles. You can pin the right foot with the left ankle on top. If it's right for your shoulders to reach the arms up, maybe you hold the right wrist Traction the arm bones from your shoulder and release the right shoulder, right side ribs and hip to the mat. Those of you crossing ankles, maybe switch the cross right on top of left. Feel the whole back body still heavy, right and left sides. Release your wrists if you're using the arms. Baby step your feet to the other corner of your mat. Some of you pinning right ankle over left. Some of you taking the left wrist and releasing the shoulder as you traction the arm bones out of shoulder. Heavy left side body. Back ribs still breathing towards earth. So rather than the action of pressing your back flat, just breathe it. Switch the cross of your ankles if you're crossing. And coming back to center, slowly bend your knees one at a time. Setting up for spinal twist, some of you will scoot your hips to the right, then bring your knees to your chest. Drop them to the left. Any other twist is fine. You may want to put your roll underneath your left knee or between your two legs. And find your way onto the other side. I like to pause and center before changing sides. At least when I'm doing this kind of really mindful practice. We'll do low and last piece on our backs, arm glide, leg slide combined. Line your back with your feet on the floor. Hands either alongside body or on your hips. And this time, breathing into back bottom ribs. As you glide left heel forward and either slide both hands or just your right hand up the floor. Relax low belly and exhale, come back to center. 3 more breaths. You might choose to focus on one limb. That works great. Or you can do almost a full slow angel. I wouldn't move both legs at the same time. That has a whole other discussion of mechanics. And the next place we'll be heading is lying on our left side, possibly with the roll between your legs for side lying Tadasana. Lying on your left side, you can either extend left arm overhead to rest head on arm, or I like to extend arm, or today this is what I like, put the blanket on my shoulder and use that as a pillow. Alternatively, you can keep your arm forward out from under your head with a blanket or small pillow underneath your head. You might also need to line a blanket with your side body if that's a lot of pressure on shoulders still. Roll between your legs, so your legs are hips width in Tadasana. And if you want to be real meticulous, you can line yourself up on the edge of your yoga mat, trying to get your shoulder, your left hip bone, and your left outer ankle bone on one line. So for many of us, that means pressing the hips forward a little and the heels back. Without arching the low back, breathe into back bottom ribs. Hand is on the floor in front of your pelvis, and I invite you to lean the right hip slightly forward towards your right elbow. So you feel like when you're in the teeter-totter position, there's a danger that you'll roll onto your belly. It's not that dangerous. But right there is a great place to find alignment, and that wobbling or any activation you're feeling in the abdomen is your core, your standing core. Figure out a new orientation and getting stronger and smarter. If you're playing with the balance point, maybe you want to extend the right arm up overhead for Urdhva Tadasana. If you roll onto your belly, no big deal. You're already on the ground. If you want to play with tree or any other variations here, side lying, about 2 more breaths. Continue to breathe the back bottom ribs out. Your body might be arching in order to help balance. Heart lifted is great, but not when it hurts the low back. All right, come into a fetal curve. Fold both knees in, roll either between thighs or maybe you slip it down between your shins to keep your legs hip width, but also support your ankle. Left arm out in front of you if it's not already. Inhale, right arm to the ceiling. And exhale, open into your twist. Right hand might come to the floor or you might put it down on your hip. And if the Vinny is right for you, we'll go back and forth 2 more times. Inhaling to ceiling. Exhale, close the clamshell. And keep going. Or stay and breathe. And to come on to the other side, some of you might be able to connect to core and pick your knees up to roll to the other side. Just be mindful of your back. Any other arrangements that need to be made? Keep breathing. Setting up in your side lying Tadasana. And if roll between thighs doesn't work for you, that's okay. I do recommend legs hips width apart, but it's fine to stack the ankles and get that banana, that half moon like stretch in the left side body. Same with hanging the head. You can choose to do that if that feels right for your neck today, like a release. And feel for unpiking the hips. Just a little pressure of pubic bone forward, heels back, and then breathe the back bottom ribs out. So, right, there's a lot of structures that are tight in here that once you try to straighten out the legs and pelvis, you might feel in the rest of your back spine. We don't want to compensate. We want to breathe and lengthen and make space. It occurred to me on my mat recently that so many of these alignment things feel like that whack-a-mole game. You put one thing in place, something else pops out. But that's not true in yoga. We're not trying to fix anything. We're making space. There's enough space in this body for all of me. And once I feel that, I recognize there's enough space in this world for all of us, for everyone. All right, you can play with balance. You can play with trees or quad stretches or any other postures, or simply rest and breathe in your very supported Tadasana. And when that feels complete, come into your fetal curve. Right arm out in front of you, if that feels right. Do our little Vinny yoga into spinal twist, if you like. Inhaling arm to sky, opening clamshell, exhaling to open and reverse. I think you guys know the version also where you can just slide your left arm across your chest. Maybe your shoulder prefers that today. take a few breaths in your personal transition, 6 or 8 breaths. Some of you want to stay in twists or continue to play on the floor. Transitioning to standing. So some of you will want to visit cat, cow, or down dog. Your transition may not look like the form of yoga poses. That's fine. Conscious movements. Even if you're fixing hair or clothes or saying hi to your pet. All done wide awake. That's yoga. Let's do some sun breaths. So if you're still transitioning, keep breathing, finding your way up to a Tadasana where your feet are hips width apart. Your arms can either be alongside body or thumbs against your heart. And first sun breath, inhale the hands straight up to the sky, right up the center line. And exhale, bring it back to center. One more like that. And maybe whatever you're feeling, shoulders, low back today, this is the best way for your arms to move. You'll stay with it. Or now dropping the hands before we reach them forward up. Inhale, arms up. Maybe palms press. Exhale, back down and to your heart. Once again, like that. Inhale, sweep it up. Exhale, down into heart. Sweep the arms out to the sides and up. Inhale, if this is okay for shoulders, palms meet. Exhale, bring it right down to your heart. In variation 4, inhale, arms sweep down and up. And then they come back the way they went up. Exhale, back down and to center. Now close your eyes. We'll take 5 more breaths together. You can move the arms any way you want. One of those patterns or come up with something different. Breathing in and breathing out. 3 more breaths. Whether your head is part of the arm movement, I'll leave that up to how it feels to your body, including your hips and low back. And once you finish the last round, thumbs against your heart, feeling it beat. Feel your feet on the earth. Full breath into the heart space. And release the hands. Separate your feet 4 feet apart. Setting up warrior 2. Turn the right toes out. Bend the right knee. Spread your wings. We'll do a pulse here. Push your feet into the earth to inhale, straighten your legs, and bring palms together overhead. Only the parts of this movement that press back into warrior two. Inhale, press down to rise. Option, exhale, hands come down to your heart and open your wings. 2 more pulses. Move the arms in any way that supports your growing breath. Then bring your hands to your hips, straighten your right leg, turn the toes in. Inhale, squeeze the elbows, shoulders together behind you, lift your chest. Exhale, forward fold, hands to the earth or down the sides of your legs as you fold into yourself. If you prefer to stay upright in the super person shape, keep breathing to lift and lengthen your heart, lift out of your low back. Forward folds, inhale, lift and lengthen your heart, shoulders back, and exhale, fold in. And then come up just as mindfully as you went down. Warrior two to left foot, turn the left toes out, bend your left knee, spread your wings. Let's add a head movement this time. Inhale, press your feet down to straighten your legs, palms together overhead. Exhale, look over your left fingers. Inhale, rise. Arms only come up if it feels good. They can also just come to heart. Exhale, look over right fingers. Inhale, rise. Exhale, look left. Inhale, rise. Feel your heels on the earth. Exhale, look right. Bring your hands to your hips, straighten your left leg, turn your toes in. Squeeze shoulders, elbows back. Inhale, lift your chest. Either stay here or forward fold in this shape. Keep your hands on your waist. Look for your navel as you squeeze your elbows together behind you. Using the awkwardness of the shape to wake up the upper back, the space between your shoulders. And either option to release hands to earth or inhale, lift up a bit so you can interlace hands behind your back. Palms together. And then maybe pull on the fingers, pull them apart to dig the shoulders into the now your awake upper back. Fold. You can do that same thing without folding. You can stay upright. If interlocking hands doesn't work for you, I recommend just keeping hands on waist. You can catch opposite elbows. Just be mindful of the head of the shoulder not dipping. Good. Forward folds. If you feel safe coming up in the bind, reach up through your knuckles, push off your feet to come up, or use your hands on your legs to help you climb up. And then release. Let's come into a warrior one leg shape. Turn your right toes out. Turn your hips all the way to the right. So that might mean stepping left foot to the side quite a bit. Bending right knee. Brain cradling. No, let's do hands on hips first. Put the hands on your hips. Maybe walk them towards the back of your hips. Your fingers wrap around the sides. You're holding your own pelvis in your hands and can guide it straight down. Ground it. Like a potted plant. This is the pot. And inhale, grow your spine from the pot up. Exhale, roll shoulders back, tweeze elbows in. Depending on what feels good to your neck, you can either keep the chin down as you breathe the sternum up towards your chin, or you can let the head go back or somewhere in between. Especially if you're letting head go back, continue to roll the shoulders down away from your head. Simultaneously lift the ribs off your low back. All right. If that movement took your upper spine backwards towards a bend, inhale your heart forward to re-neutralize. Release your hands to the floor inside your right foot, or find a block there. Left hand stays on the floor. You can lean on it. Bring your right hand into your right hip crease to draw the tissues of the right hip back and underneath you. So compressing right hip, and then start to straighten your right leg till you find your hamstrings. With this compression, your hamstrings might turn up much faster than they would if your hands were down. So just feel into that stretch, not push past it. Where the hamstrings avoid themselves, we'll just shine a little light there, loving breath. Then bend your right knee. Twisting warrior variation. Right hand can stay on your hip as you turn your chest towards the left thigh or right thigh, or reach right arm to sky. Left knee can be down. So I've got my right foot forward and I'm twisting my chest towards the right. If you're intentionally doing the open twist, that's fine. Yeah, twister, right foot, left hand. Belly button to the right thigh. All right, hand down. Step either back into a downward dog or step your left foot forward into a fold for transition. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And then left foot forward for warrior one. Bring your hands to your hips. Guide your pelvis down. Breathe your rib cage up. Exhale, roll shoulders back. Hug the elbows in. Keep breathing the heart up, 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 forward and up. Optional brain cradle. You can either keep hands on hips for the last few breaths or interlace hands at base of skull. Thumbs run down the neck. Elbows in. Inhale, elbows to the sky. Exhale, release your head, your skull into your palms. Release the contents of the skull into your supportive hands. Close your eyes. Feel the wobble of your feet on the earth. Feeling into supporting your body from the ground up. And if that all took the upper spine backwards towards a back bend, inhale your heart forward to bring your head up. Lower your hands down to the inside of right foot or right hand down to the inside of foot. Hook your left hip with your left thumb, massage your tissues down. And right there, that might turn on the hamstrings. You don't need to straighten the left leg anymore. Or start to shift your hips back until you feel hamstrings talking. It's kind of a prep for revolved triangle / a back traction for twisting warrior. Moving into twisting warrior, inhale, bend your left knee. Right heel can stay down or spin up. And twist your torso to the left. Left hand can stay on hip, thigh, or sky. Hand down. Step back into a tabletop. We'll come to all fours for dolphin prelude. Those of you who can't be on your knees, I'll show you how to do this on. I'll show you on a chair. I'll pantomime at the wall. Come down onto your elbows. Wrap your hands around your upper arms to line the elbows up under the shoulder socket. Then clasp your hands. To rest the head on the floor, you may need to walk the knees back a little bit. Without moving elbows aside, put your forehead down. And then if you like, turn the knuckles off the floor to the sky. If you're not kneeling, you can do this on furniture. Come down onto your elbows, same setup, measure your elbow width, clasp hands. At the wall, you might not get the elbows on the wall. You might put your hands on the wall for shower pose, elbows, like turbo dog. slightly off the wall, hugging in, and then walk back like a down dog to hang your head. And keep your neck relaxed. Maybe gaze toward your navel as you shift your weight forward to come out of the pose. We'll transition to our seats. If your roll is still intact, find it. We're going to lie back on it. If it's not rolled anymore, you can just use a folded blanket or a bolster. We're going to kind of support while we hang our heads off the top edge of our blanket or bolster. So you might make a blanket pile and then just sit on the edge of it. We'll sit and slide off the edge. You may need to adjust. If you're using your roll, sit 4 to 6 inches in front of it. You can wiggle to adjust once you come down. Before we come down, I'm going to skip the demo. It's because from experience, you guys will do it with me anyway. And that's really confusing to cue. So I'll just try to cue it really clearly. We'll start with abdominals before we come down. So sit in front of your roll. Sit with your feet, hips width, maybe even mat widths apart. Knees bent. They can be just a little bit bent, almost straight. That's fine. We'll start holding on behind the knees onto your hamstrings to sit up tall. Get on your sit bones off your tail. Lift your heart, ease the shoulders back, keep the chin down, gaze straight ahead. Take a huge breath into this length. And then exhale to tuck your chin, tuck your tail, and pull navel to spine, rounding the upper and mid spine back. Inhale, sit up again, re-lengthen the spine, shoulders back, untuck tail. Exhale, curling back, pull your belly in, tuck your chin. One more time. Inhale, sit up tall. Exhale, curling back. Throat lock. Pull your belly in, maybe a little lift into Uddiyana, tucking tail, Mula Bandha, contracted pelvic floor. Stay here for a couple breaths. On each exhale, you might come down a little bit more. You can let go with your hands and use your abdominals completely. That's fine. And then support yourself coming down onto your bolster or roll. And then see if there's a little bit of space behind your head. Feet on the floor, interlace hands behind your head and neck. Cup the base of your skull in your palms. Support your neck with your thumbs. And just really gentle movement so you see how your neck responds to this. Really gently opening the elbows on inhale, closing them on exhale. Completely rest the head into your hands. And then we'll finish with the elbows in, slightly to the ceiling, as you release your head back to the ground behind you. It might not go very far. Notice the places where it feels like release. If it feels like strain, maybe you don't do this. Maybe just rest back in a way that's yummy for you. Those of you who are resting back, elbows in, cradling the head and neck, maybe massage your neck with your thumbs and start to dig into the points right at the base of the skull. And then option, if you can hook that bottom ridge of your skull with your hands. We're not pulling, this isn't even really a traction, it's an intention to traction. Like you're dragging your head up the mat towards the top edge of mat. Feeling for a little space opening between the skull and the first cervical vertebra. Release your jaw, your tongue, your soft palate. And maybe sense a little more opening in the neck. Now, I know some of you, it's not safe for your necks to go back at all. Then you're putting a block or blanket under your head if you're on a bolster. Those of you in the neck traction, take 2 or 3 more luscious breaths. Option to straighten your legs out and relax completely into this kind of supported fish pose almost. Now to come out, some of you will simply roll off to the side into a fetal curve. You can take your pillow roll with you, or you can bend your knees, feet on the floor. Take a breath into the back bottom ribs, relax low belly. Exhale, pull low belly in a lot to do a sit-up. And then move the roll out of the way to come down onto your back. Hug your knees into your chest. And take a moment, just feel the support of the ground underneath back body. You can rock. You can roll your head side to side. You might feel like you want to counterpose by tucking your nose up to your knees, turning on your throat muscles, or the muscles on front of your neck, SCMs. Any other twists or movements that allow you to release into a relaxation? If you're staying with me for short Shavasana, head there. If you want to turn me off so you can take a full 5 to 11 minutes in relaxation. You are absolutely welcome. We'll namaste now. And even if you're logged on, you might choose to stay and relax where you are. And tune my voice out. Those of you coming up with my voice, wiggle your fingers and your toes. Ease your way up to sitting. Either curl up onto your side first or hug your knees into your chest. Hold the backs of your legs to rock up. And then bring palms together, thumbs against your sternum. Lift your heart. Bow to your heart. Recognize you are enough, just as you are. And everything you do is enough. And we bow to each other. Namaste.